So, a few days ago we made this video, talking about Daily Faceoff's Frank Seravalli and the comments that he made about Vancouver Canucks superstar Elias Pettersson. He kind of went on a tirade, and in a way it was antagonistic. There were a lot of comments that Seravalli made over the course of several shows and videos where he just kind of talked smack about Elias Pettersson, and I say that I understand he wasn't talking smack for the sake of talking smack. He had a very legitimate point behind his message, but the way in which he did it, the way he was talking about this stuff, it was very opinionated, and a lot of people had their thoughts about that. But ever since we had made that video, it turns out Seravalli had a chance to double down on his comments, which is why we are doubling down and making this video right here. So if you didn't watch the last one, we'll just get you up to speed. Frank Seravalli essentially, aside from the comments that he made where he said that Elias Pettersson was soft and afraid, he took pretty big issue with the comments that Pettersson made in the post-season press conference. In Seravalli's perspective, Elias Pettersson was, quote-unquote, using the injury that he had sustained to his knee as an excuse as to why he played poorly. Now, Seravalli had a lot more to say beyond that, but that was essentially the meat and potatoes of it. Seravalli did not make any new fans of Canucks fans after those comments were made, and a lot of people went out there and started lambasting on the guy. So, what does Sekeres and Price end up going out there and do? Well, they had themselves Seravalli on their show, and they wanted to give him an opportunity to express why his reasoning led down the path that it did to result in the opinion that he had formed. I'll leave a link in the description to Sekeres and Price's YouTube video. It is the full interview with Frank Seravalli. Seravalli speaks about his beef with Vancouver Canucks fans, EP40's injury, and free agency plans, etc., etc. So, it's all going to be in the description. I'll also leave a link in the description to this article on CanucksArmy.com by Mike Gold. Seravalli, Canucks were shocked to hear Pettersson blame part of his play on injured knee, because the article here transcribes a lot of what it is that Seravalli said. It makes it easier for us. So, take a look at what Seravalli expands on in regards to the Elias Pettersson comments. They end up asking him, they say, hey, you've generated a lot of heat amongst the Canucks market, etc., etc. Seravalli says this: the Canucks were, I think, jaws on the ground floored to hear Elias Pettersson try and blame part of his issues in play the second half of the season on his knee. Think about what it says about the team if he was actually injured. Let's unpack it the other way, which is, he practiced, he played, then you told everyone he wasn't hurt, multiple times in fact, and now all of a sudden, he was injured? I think the Canucks were really surprised to hear it, and I think it was a cop-out to the nth degree. The Canucks felt that Elias Pettersson was the 15th or 17th most injured player on their roster. That's what I believe, Seravalli added. There were players that played through a lot more than what Elias Pettersson did. Again, his own agent can come out this week and acknowledge publicly that he never saw a doctor. And that was another part that Seravalli stressed on quite heavily in this commentary, that he as in Pettersson, did not end up seeing a doctor even though he was hurt, etc., etc. And with some of the extra comments that we had heard from Canucks people, Pettersson, of course, being the main one, yeah, his knee was banged up for a while, Rick Tocchet saying that it was a tendonitis, etc., etc. With all of that being pushed into the forefront, it becomes easier, I'd say, for fans to be like, oh, okay, Pettersson was just hurt. That's why. I think a lot of people who immediately just go to the, oh, okay, kind of conclusion want to believe in the good and the strengths of Elias Pettersson rather than wanting to see him tear himself down. Because everybody in this city that has watched Pettersson be the player that we know he can be wants to see this guy continue doing that, of course, right? Nobody wants to see him fail. But to go out there and completely antagonize it right away to the point of critiquing Pettersson in Vancouver in the way that Seravalli did, it comes from a different place, I would say. Not that Seravalli is a Vancouver hater, but it's just his perspective is of a different origin. Seems like he's more so looking for fairness rather than a reason or justification for Pettersson playing poorly. Seravalli even says, hey, but what about the comments that Pettersson made where he called himself crap? what about those comments? Seravalli doesn't really think that that's enough to discredit the injury idea, because quite frankly, Seravalli just doesn't believe that Pettersson's injury was either strong enough to warrant the comments where he's able to talk about it, or B, something that the Vancouver Canucks were expecting to hear from Pettersson in that press conference. And it is a very unique perspective. It's not something that I think we can all unanimously agree on as one way or the other, but I don't know. This is a weird video, to be honest. Like, the entire audio is there in the description if you want to listen to it yourself, but I wanted to respond to one more idea from Seravalli's commentary before we end off this video. The idea that the Canucks felt that there are maybe 10, 11, 12, 15-ish guys that were more banged up than Elias Pettersson. Honestly, I get where Seravalli is coming from with that, but I just don't buy it. I mean, mentally, there was a block that Elias Pettersson exhibited for sure, but the fact that it was so drastic from the beginning of the season to the All-Star break and then afterwards, it does not really make any sense to me how Elias Pettersson could have gone through that stretch from February till the end of the year without some sort of an injury. Like, we had heard so much from Canucks fans, yeah, he has to be playing injured. There's no way he is fully healthy. Like, if he's injured, it explains everything. And I think a lot of us kind of felt that, okay, yeah, they're not going to admit it until the end of the season. That's like hockey lingo. You don't talk about injuries, especially in the playoffs. That's never something you give away. And then when Pettersson came out and said he was injured, we were like, okay, great. Like, yeah, we know. We knew this, Elias Pettersson, so that's not surprising. But I think Seravalli just doesn't really believe in Pettersson as much. I think, okay, let me think about how to word this. Seravalli's origin of this idea, as we had said, it comes from a place more so of fairness rather than giving a reason for Pettersson. If he doesn't have that thought, okay, maybe there's reasons why Pettersson played poorly beyond just him being bad. If he didn't have that injury idea, then it's probably a lot easier to jump to the, oh, Pettersson just kind of shaded the Canucks with this comment. Pettersson caught the Canucks off guard with these comments. Maybe he did catch them off guard, maybe. But if Rick Tocchet's already saying, yeah, tendinitis, I don't want to think that Elias Pettersson went out there and lied about this thing. That he started whatever to give a reason for his poor play. It's just such a strange thing to go out there and talk about in the media, but I'll applaud Sekeres and Price at least for going out there and giving the opportunity for Seravalli to explain more of his thought process, because it gives me a fun YouTube video to go out there and make. But either way, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about Frank Seravalli doubling down on Elias Pettersson and the nature of his injury, quote-unquote, maybe being somewhat of a cop-out, maybe being somewhat of an excuse, and catching the Canucks off guard. Do you agree or disagree with this perspective? Again, the audio will be in the description if you want to go ahead and listen to it yourself, but yeah, no, I mean, the rest of this article goes out there and just explains more of the situation, like the points, the playoff production, how Pettersson didn't really have anything. So, yeah, you can let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Can you tell I'm kind of disappointed that we're talking about this, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, I feel like we kind of have to. I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.